In the city of Seattle, Washington, where rain often painted the windows with soft streaks and the air carried a quiet sense of calm, lived a woman named Sarah Mitchell. Sarah was 35 years old, vibrant, thoughtful, and filled with the kind of energy that came from a love of life itself. She had been married for nearly 8 years to Thomas Mitchell, a man 20 years her senior. Thomas was 55, a university professor who spent his days reading, writing, and teaching about philosophy and history. He was wise, gentle, and deeply committed to Sarah, though their marriage had always carried with it the weight of their age difference. To their friends and neighbors, they appeared like any other couple, perhaps a little mismatched in years, but steady and respectful of each other. Sarah, however, often struggled in ways she couldn't fully admit out loud. She loved Thomas for his wisdom, his calm voice, and his deep loyalty, but there were moments when she felt he didn't understand her laughter, her excitement for little adventures, or the kind of playful games life sometimes demanded. It all began on a quiet spring evening. Sarah had been invited by her co-workers at the art gallery to join a weekend team-building retreat. It wasn't serious work, it was filled with outdoor activities, board games, storytelling circles, and even karaoke nights. Sarah thought it would be refreshing and fun, something to bring her out of her daily routine. But when she mentioned it to Thomas at dinner, he looked at her with furrowed brows. "Games?" he asked, cutting into his roasted chicken carefully. "Sarah, you're 35. Don't you think you're a bit old for such things?" Sarah froze. She wasn't expecting that answer. She thought he'd smile and encourage her to go, but instead, his words carried a tone that made her feel small. "It's not about age, Thomas," she replied gently. "It's about connection. It's about laughter. Everyone plays games, board games, silly competitions, even just singing songs together. It's fun." Thomas shook his head, sipping from his glass of water. "I don't understand such games. Life isn't about wasting time like children. At my age, I see it differently." Those words settled heavily in Sarah's heart. She didn't argue, but she went to bed that night wondering if perhaps she and Thomas lived in two different worlds. Still, the retreat arrived, and Sarah decided to go. She didn't want to live in silence, suppressing her joy. The weekend was everything she hoped for. People laughing, climbing ropes courses, painting murals together, and sharing late-night conversations by the fire. Sarah felt alive, as though her younger spirit had been given permission to dance again. One evening, when the group played a simple game where everyone had to share something about themselves that no one else knew, Sarah found herself confessing, "I sometimes feel like I'm too serious at home. But the truth is, I love to laugh. I love silly things, dancing in the rain, singing badly to the radio, or even losing at board games. It makes me feel alive." Her colleagues cheered and laughed with her, and Sarah realized how much she missed this part of herself. When she returned home on Sunday evening, Thomas was sitting on the porch, reading a thick book as usual. He looked up and smiled, though his eyes carried the quiet curiosity of a man who wasn't sure he understood what she had been up to. "How was it?" he asked. Sarah set down her bag, sat beside him, and smiled. "It was wonderful. I needed it." Thomas adjusted his glasses. "You seem different. Lighter." Sarah nodded. "Because I remembered a part of myself I don't show you often. The part that still wants to play, Thomas." For a moment, silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft sound of birds overhead. Thomas closed his book slowly. "I may not understand those games, Sarah," he said quietly. "But I do understand you. And maybe I need to try." The next weekend, Sarah was surprised when Thomas suggested they take a walk to the park. He had packed a picnic basket, something he hadn't done in years. When they reached a grassy field, he pulled out not just sandwiches and fruit, but a deck of cards. "I asked one of my students to teach me something simple," he admitted awkwardly, adjusting his glasses. "Would you play with me?" Sarah's heart swelled. It wasn't about the game. It was about effort. It was about love choosing to bridge the gap. They played, and Thomas, though clumsy with the rules, laughed at his own mistakes. For the first time in years, Sarah saw him loosen up, his serious face breaking into genuine laughter. That afternoon, Sarah realized something profound. Love isn't about marrying someone who understands every part of you instantly. It's about choosing to learn each other's language, even if it means playing games you don't understand, or listening to music you don't enjoy, just because it matters to the person you love. Over time, Thomas never became a man who loved games, but he became a man who loved Sarah enough to try. And in return, Sarah found herself sitting through his long lectures about philosophy, nodding with interest, even when the concepts flew over her head. Their marriage wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was two worlds, slowly learning to meet in the middle. Years later, when Sarah would tell their grandchildren about their love story, she would laugh and say, "Your grandfather once told me he didn't understand games. But the truth is, he learned the most important one of all: how to play the game of love." And in that, Sarah finally knew. Age didn't matter. What mattered was effort, kindness, and the willingness to meet each other halfway.